Okay, ladies, welcome back to the Flourish Women podcast.
Hey, y'all.
How are y'all?
Hey.
How are y'all doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. You
Doing good.
That's
Thanks for
good.
asking.
Okay, ladies, how are y'all doing out there? Make sure you jump in the comments and tell us how your week is going. We want to hear from you guys. So you guys are now locked into a judgment-free zone where we take on real life issues and meet them with godly truth, wisdom, and transparency. So today's episode, since this has been the love month, if you haven't noticed, all of our episodes have been revolving around some type of love, some type of way. Our episode today is about marriage. So before we hop into that, we're going to do our You Grow Girl segment.
You grow, girl.
So this segment is where we take a second to acknowledge our wins, whether they be major or minor. What we say is it doesn't matter how fast you're moving as long as you're moving. So who wants to take that?
I'll take it for today.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So recently I was working on a project and I had to go get some copies made at Office Depot. I shouldn't have said their names, but I probably shouldn't put them out there like that. I had to go get some copies made, and I was doing this for my mom. And so the lady who was helping me out, she was very sweet, just great customer service, and she was telling me the prices of the copies that I needed to get made. And so she gave me the main price, and then after that, she leans over, whispers, and says, "But you can cash out me, and I'll charge this amount for it." And of course, you're thinking like, okay, well, this is a good amount. Is this favor? But as soon as she said it, in my heart, I just knew Holy Spirit was like, nope, integrity, that's big. So it wasn't a thing where you're getting favor from the company or the company's name. It was like in her name. And so I had to politely say, no, thank you. We'll just pay the first price that you gave me. And so I think that, just coming up, I used to probably see it as like, oh, okay, favor, a little extra money in my pocket. But then I'm like, she's not the owner of this company. This is not her business. Like, it's kind of like she's basically trying to do some under the table stuff, and I'm not for that. And I think about integrity. So I told her no, and that's my You Grow Girl moment.
Hello. You grow girl.
Thank you.
That is
Thank
good. Because like you said, a lot of people might look at that like, God did not do that. Like when you find money on the ground and it probably fell out of somebody's pocket.
Right. It's just like, okay, you got to check in with the Holy Spirit.
That's good.
Yeah, I did not have peace about that.
That's good. And that's a lesson. That is a total lesson by itself.
Thank you.
So you grow, girl.
Thank you.
That's good. So ladies, let's jump into the topic.
All right.
So today's topic is marriage. And I know people probably ask you this question all the time, or they may not, but I hear it all the time. Like, how did you know he was the one? Like, what was that moment that you were like, this is it?
Okay. Well, for me,
Lord said,
I, had my share of guys that I dated and just, of course, was not satisfied at all just with what they were putting out and what I was, getting out of those relationships. It was first for me finding myself, like what I really desire in a person, and when you think about marriage, like what do I want out of marriage? And so first having to value myself with that. But then when I did meet my husband, it was just certain things that he was knocking off, on my list. Like, okay, this, and just seeing that it was completely different from previous relationships. And of course, God was definitely at the center of it. And so with me, I had to be sure that I was checking in, because it was previous moments or relationships where I thought, okay, well, he's saved, I'm saved. Let's try to make this thing work. Checking in with God on it, and did not have God's peace with me. So I was trying to force a situation, and it was not the right one. And so I had matured at that point before I met my husband, and was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to make sure I'm listening in to everything that you tell me about him. If he is okay, if he's not, I'll let him go, and that's fine. And so God actually spoke to me about him. And I'm very hesitant when I say that, like, because I know God, you know, I hear it often around church culture, like, oh, God told me he's my husband. But even though God told me that, I did not tell him that.
Yeah.
God shared something with me.
Good. Yes,
I received it. And what it did for me is just kept my eyes open to our friendship and the way we communicated and what questions to ask. And so just knowing that, talking, communicating, learning him, that's how I knew this is the one for me.
Love it. Well, I was a handful, y'all. Let me tell you something. I was a handful, and I had this whole list, and God's like, scratch that. I don't even know why you thought you was going to come with me with a list because you don't even know what you need. So even dating my husband, I was skeptical. Before dating him, I was like, okay, God, I'm not dating nobody. That's it. You know, I'm just focusing on me right now. I'm like, focusing on me. I wasn't even looking for that. And how I met my husband was so ironic. Like, we literally was friends. Like, I was his daughter cheer coach. So we literally, like, well, you a parent. Like, that's it. We cool, we friends, whatever. So one thing I found out he was interested in me. This was the funniest thing. He called me off season. So it's like 2 seasons. You got basketball, you got football season. He called me and like, oh, when is the tryout? I said, okay. I kind of felt, I was like, well, I don't know. So I was like, okay, God, he is cool, whatever. So start dating, fast forward. And I knew because he was totally different from all the other guys I had dated and just how he treated me. And when my trauma showed up, because I had so much trauma, I didn't even realize. When my trauma showed up, he was patient. He was gentle. I never forget. He, at our old church, he signed me up. I wasn't there. He signed me up for an encounter with God. I had never been to an encounter with God. I didn't know what it was. It's like a shut-in with God. And when I came to church, he was like, yeah, I signed you up. And I was like, am I that bad? He was like, yeah. And I was like, so I went to the encounter and I said, God, he loves me so much. He's introducing me back to you. Nobody has ever done it. He's like, you need an encounter with God because I know you the one, but you got to see some stuff in you. So when my trauma showed up, instead of him like bashing me, saying bye, break up with me, he's like, no, I see something there. I want to introduce, I can't help you. I'm going to introduce you to God and see what he can. So for me, I was like, you the one. All the rest of them be like, let's smoke this. Let's go drink this. They introduced me to addictions. Right. I'm like, no, he don't everything else. Mm-hmm. But that I was like, I was like, God, why he so patient with me? I'm scared. Like, what is going on? Okay, I'm yelling. He like, okay, are you done? And then checking me in a loving way, like, that's good. No, you're not gonna do that. Oh, you thought you was gonna talk to your ex on the phone? Well, you can leave because I'm not dealing with you talking to your ex. I'm like, oh, we just cool. Well, I can leave and you can be cool with him. And I'm like, no, you're right. That's disrespectful. So I'm like, oh, nobody ever checked me. But like I said, I was a handful. I was used to being in control. And I'm like, God, I need that. Like, I didn't even know I needed that. So I was like, oh, he the one. Mm-hmm. Before even God told me, I'm like, oh, he the one. I already know, like, he the one. So yeah, for me, that was our little he the one.
Sorry, that's so sweet.
Well, what about you, Lakir?
So for me, the same thing that you guys said, like, it was just so different. Like, the whole situation was so different. Like, I had just had some really bad relationships before I met my husband. And so it had caused me to think a certain way about men. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things, there were like 2 major things that he did. One thing he did was we were talking one night and I had told him, you know, at this point I knew what I wanted. I was like, I'm not gonna play games. So we had went out and seen a movie and I was like, hey, you know, if I'm not the only person you're talking to, or I said something like, you know, I don't want to have to filter what we do, you know, out here hiding. We can't go out. But, you know, if you're talking to somebody else, please just let me know so I can step back. And he said, you know, I was talking to someone. I thought they may have been the one. I'm not exactly sure yet. But his honesty with me about that, because that's such a big deal.
That is so good.
Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't try to hide it. He was like, you know, I thought she could be the one. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just not sure. They lived in separate states. And so I was like, you know what? Well, I'm going to step back. You know, I am very interested in you, but I'm going to step back and, you know, you figure out what you got to do. And like maybe 2 or 3 days later, he called me back and was like, you know what? I want to try this. I want to make this work. I'm going to take care of that. And like, I didn't have to ask any other questions. And, you know, I was like, well, you take care of that. I'm gonna give you 2 weeks to cut off any and everything that you may have going on. And when I asked him a week or so later, I was like, did you take care of that? And he was just like, I'm good. You ain't got nothing to worry about. But like his honesty and openness. And like one other thing, like we were talking one night and I had never had anybody really check me in a good way.
loving way.
But like we were talking and I was like, yeah, you probably like this and this and that. You probably be out here doing da da da. And he was like, we were sitting in the living room and I remember him sitting up saying, hold on. You are not going to put me in the same box that you put the rest of those men. And he was like, you don't know me like that. Like we're still getting to know each other. Like don't do that to me. Like, and it was just like, but like you said, he checked off a lot of the boxes. Like he not only talked about God, but he knew God. We served together on the ministry. Like it was just completely different. And so I was like, three or 4 months in, I was like, this is it.
I really like what you said about that honesty piece because it brought back something when we were, just getting acquainted with one another. And I always thought to myself, if I could share, it's something like I felt like was very vulnerable for me. And so I'm like, if I could share this truth with him and if he, he handles it in a graceful way, in a merciful way, then this is probably a good indicator that he's the one. So I really shared something that was very, very deep and personal that I had never shared with any guy before. I shared that and like when I shared it, of course, he had to process it, but I guess God was dealing with him too, just about extending grace, extending, that mercy and that love towards me, because it wasn't like I was dealing with this thing, but it was just like, okay, if you're going to know me, you got to know me. You got to know this about me, and I felt like I needed to be honest and truthful with that. So to see him handle that and take it and love me, no different, just with things, that was like, okay,
yes,
this is
same
what
thing. Same. I was able to tell my husband a lot of stuff that I may have not ever told anybody else, and he was like, "That's fine. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." And I was like,
yeah,
love it.
That's good.
Love it. So thank you guys for sharing, because I know a lot of people ask, like, how did you know? How did you know? But that was really good. So my next question is, so like, I know transitioning to being a wife can be hard. So like, what did that transition look like? Or what were some things that you learned about yourself during going from single to being married?
Still learning.
It's an everlasting process.
Yes. You got it first.
I'll go first. It was very hard before I surrendered to God because I grew up religious. I didn't know God until I met my husband. He introduced me to God. I didn't know him. Hey, Jesus, who are you? I don't know. Eddie introduced me to God. Like, you need to know him if you're going to be my wife. Like, so it was I was selfish, very, I remember saying one time, like, you ain't on my level. Like, I was just ratchet, so mean. I'm like, what is wrong with you, girl? So beforehand, it was so bad because I'm thinking, like, you got to serve me like I was God or something. Like, I'm the prize. And I remember him saying, like, no, I'm the prize too. Like, yes, you're a jewel. I get it. Yeah. But we're both the prize. And so that transition, I'm like, okay, it was very hard until I surrendered to God. And when God showed me, and it was easy for me to be submissive as I transitioned as a wife because I was submissive to God first. So even in our disagreements, even when I was like, you know what? I can serve my husband in peace because I'm serving God.
Yes.
Like, so that it was hard at first, and I'll tell anybody, even with God, it can be challenging, but before God, it's like you're very all about society. It's like, be about you, and you the prize, and you the woman, and you this, and it's like, no, he the prize too. Like, so it was hard, like, even transition as a wife, like sharing my space. Ooh, help me, God. Because I grew up in a household with so many women, and I'm like, oh, I finally don't have to share my space. And then you get married, and you like, can you slide over? Can you put your clothes on that side? Can I get my own cover, please? Like, it was just so, I'm like, and I remember God showing me in the mirror. He said, you're selfish. And I said, you know what, you're right. Like, I need to, and my husband is selfless. Like, he would give me the shirt off his back, but I was like, God, you right. Like, I'm so selfish. So he had to deal with my heart. So that transition, if you not reading, if you not pouring into yourself, or even asking God, like, show me so I can be a better wife, fiance, whatever, then it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
So just know that, like, y'all are one and becoming one. And so it's no more you. No more me. It's us. So for me, it was hard and easy after Christ.
Yeah.
That was just my take.
I would say I was selfish as well. Touche to that, because that was definitely me, and I'm not saying like that's something that I have overcome, because God continues to show me more about myself. And so, just when we first got married, though, I was very independent. Like, I don't have to depend on no man. I can do this for myself, and I had to realize, here's a good one. So we had just got married, and I think we had went to some New Year's Eve party or something. And so I think we were leaving, and we had to drive. We lived an hour away from where we were, so we were driving. And then I think I ended up sharing with him, like, being independent was all that I knew. But now I don't want to be that way.
Hello.
I think something happened where I wanted him to like hold my hand while we were there, or come by me and stand by my side. And he wasn't doing it, because in his mind, he's like, you're so independent. I thought you were fine. But I communicated that to him because I could just feel that transition happening, where I've been this way for so long. Now I don't have to be. Now I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And so that's a big one for
That's
me,
huge.
like letting that independency go and communicating that what I need.
Yeah.
Like I will, and I know y'all know me, if I'm like, I got it, I can do it, I can, I'll make it happen, whatever. But just being okay with letting somebody know like what I need. And I had to learn that after getting married. He's like, I can't read your mind. I don't know what you need. I'm getting mad and frustrated about certain stuff. And it's because I'm not communicating and letting him know what I need.
Yeah. And
true.
I didn't have to answer to anybody. I had been out of my parents' house since I went to college.
Right.
I got my own place.
Taking care of yourself.
Taking care of myself. I had my own job, had my own money, my own car. Like, I didn't have to worry about anybody doing anything for me. But then when he came along, it was kind of like, I was still kind of like I can do it. I can do it. But and like Lori says, submission starts before you even meet your husband.
Say that.
Like,
Thank
that starts like
That's true.
learning how
Way
to submit
before.
to God.
Yes.
So that was something that God had been working on me with. So luckily, when I met my husband, it wasn't as hard for me, but it was still something that, like, even to this day, sometimes he'll be like, I know you have a busy week. Let me do the dishes. Let me do the laundry. And I'm like, no, these are my chores. Like, I feel like I'm like letting the house down if I don't do them or something. I don't know. So, but just learning that to let go and let him help me, like, we're a team. Oh, that was another thing. Like, I am so, like, I have a competitive spirit. Like, I used to run track, like sports, that mentality just carried over into everything in my life. And my dad was just really big on pushing me like that. And so sometimes even with my husband, like, him and I'll be like, well, I want to do it this way. And he'll be like, well, we could do it this way. And I'm like, and it's kind of, it has like a right and a wrong mentality. Like, if I'm not right, then I'm wrong. And so I had to I have to switch that sometimes, because it's like, we both can be right. He came to me the other day and was like, you can take this way, I can take this way. As long as we both meet here, as long as I meet you here,
That's so true.
that's all that matters.
Wow.
And so just learning that we're a team, we play on the same team. And like, it's not you against me. We're together.
Exactly.
That's
We're
good.
a team. I love that.
So that was hard for me.
No,
Still working
I
on
agree
that.
with you. It used to be hard for me, but I had to, and me and my husband had to talk about, like, we both got different strengths. We both got weaknesses. So if you good in money, okay, go ahead. Let's we had to let, because me and my husband 10 years apart, so he had been single. He's never been married, only wife, praise God. So he had been living a long time, and so he's used to doing his own budget, his own stuff. So I'm coming in like, I don't know, or whatever. And same thing with him. So he's like, maybe we need to do it. And I'm like, no. But then we had to realize, okay, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Are you strong in this area? Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, your way work. Let's just do it your way. So
Right.
we had to come to an agreement to say, whatever way you strong. And then we both weak, so let's learn. So let's just learn together.
Right. Did you guys have anything else before I wanted to ask another question? So I have another question for you guys, because I know when it comes to marriage, we talk about that trust and how that's so important. So like, I know a lot of women have been hurt before, and like me, it caused me to think a different way about men. So what advice would you give a woman that's been hurt before that wants to be married, but just not sure if she can trust again?
You want to go first?
I would say, I think first and foremost, it's important to know yourself.
Hello.
And to be real with yourself. If you are struggling with trust issues and, not only praying about it and taking that to God, but surrounding yourself with people, counseling, whatever you need to settle that and reconcile that before moving into a relationship with someone, and not carrying that over in. Of course, you may not be completely just restored, because that can be a process, and you might meet somebody in the middle of that process, but you have to communicate that if you are dealing with that, and letting them know, some of those things that you're dealing with, but not putting that expectation on them to heal you. Because only God can do that. And thank God he works through people as well, but you got to be real with yourself first and foremost.
Yeah, I agree. I was that one who went into a relationship broken and trauma and all of that. And good thing I met God during the process, but one thing I could say that needed to happen was you gotta heal. I'm gonna say before, a whole lot more before, because you're gonna put all those issues on your husband. I never forget, abandonment showed up in my marriage, and when my husband would leave the house and be like, I'm going to the store, or even if he just be like, oh, I'll be back. And I'm like, well, where you going? But what time? And that was, for me, it was you're leaving me, because everybody else did. It wasn't, I'm going to Food Line. Food Line right here. You can come. You can come if you want to. But for me, abandonment showed up, and I didn't realize. I was like, what is wrong with me? Do I got attachment disorder? Like, I'm trying to figure out, what is going on with me? And I knew then, I was like, and I didn't trust anybody. I didn't even trust God with that. And I said, you know what? I got to trust God with this part of my life. I have to trust. And we say, lay it on the altar. Here you go. Here you go. I'm going to trust you with my abandonment, my trust issues. So I would say for anybody, give God those vulnerable places in your life, so that way that he can help you even throughout, even if it show up in your marriage and your fiance, he can help you, and you can be halfway there at least. Because let's be real, we can't run our husband or soulmate away. We can't, because we're not doing that inner work. So for me, I would just say making sure you are doing that, whether it's practical therapy, whether it's with God, probably both, but making sure you covering that areas, and realize, what does trust look like in my life? Realizing, okay, why don't I trust? What's the root of my trust issues first? What's the root of it? And then figuring out, okay, God, this is the area I need to give you. I don't trust. I trust him on this area, but in finances, I think he gonna steal. So I need you. I think I'm gonna wake up and all my money gonna be gone. So God, you said you the one got the money, so you gotta give him that area.
I would agree. I would agree. One thing, I remember talking to you about this one day, but I had to, because I had very bad trust issues. I didn't trust anybody. And so I was talking to a guy before I met my husband, and that's when I was just like, you know what? I have to give this to God. I had to, like Lori said, figure out why I don't trust. And I even wrote down, why don't I trust? And it's because this person did this and this person did this and I didn't experience this. And then after that, it's like, okay, I have to let all that go. This next person may not do that to me. And how do I know if I'm already telling them he's going to do this to me? But then at the same time, now that I know why I don't trust, it's like, God, I trust you more than I trust this other person. Or not more than I trust this other person, but I trust you to show me, to lead me if this other person is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So my trust is not in my husband. My trust is in the fact that I know God has a plan for me and that is good. So it's not the fact that I'm afraid that and even if my husband does go out here and do something crazy, I trust the fact that God's going to show me that he didn't went out here and done something crazy. So it's like, my trust is not in my husband. Yes, I trust him, but I trust God more.
Yes, I love it.
And so that was something that I really had to ingrain and believe and trust. And I always pray, God, show me if something is not right. And he will show you, because he's shown me before in previous situations. So that was a big deal for me.
I love that you said trust God, because even in all relationships, but specifically marriage, is and I know that, okay, well, one thing about a husband, you got a godly husband, God will minister to his heart and he'll come back and apologize or whatever the case. And the same thing with us. So it's God, I trust you that you're going to minister to him and me so we
Yeah.
can figure whatever it is out. So, yeah.
Yeah. So
sure will.
I totally
Sure will.
agree. I totally agree. I think we are running short on time. Do we have a moment or are we wrapping this up? Okay, so I have one quick question. If you could give one piece of advice really quickly to a woman that is looking to get married, what would it be?
Okay, so whatever your grandma, great grandma, everybody told you how to be in a marriage, throw it out the window. Because one thing I learned is whatever you and your husband agree with, if you the one as a woman and paying all the bills and y'all agree with that, that's y'all. Nobody
Right.
can tell you. As long as you and your husband got peace and you and God got peace with that. So my thing is, yeah, everybody's opinion is okay, but at the end of the day, like, it's whatever you and your husband got peace with. That is one thing I learned.
That's
As long as y'all agree, oh, happy day.
I like that. I think I'm going to leave that on that.
That's on that.
That's on that.
She got it.
So before we close out today, I want to take us into our Selah moment. This is where we just give perspective about the word of God, godly truth. And I'm going to give this Selah moment to Lady Taryn.
I got it. Okay, so Selah moment is coming from Proverbs 3:27. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to do it. So I'm going to give you a backstory on that, and then I'll elaborate briefly. God showed me a while ago, or some years ago with my husband, that it was like an illustration where God was giving me his heart, but my husband is standing right here by me, and I'm withholding God's heart from my husband. And that has stuck with me for so long because it's like, God is like, when it comes to marriage, you know, we think that I guess sometimes it may be out of our own strength, and God has to check us on that to let us know, like, you're not the one that's really loving them. I am loving them through you. And so we cannot, you know, get so, like, allow our flesh to get so caught up to where we begin to withhold that love that they need, you know, and that God is using us as a conduit for that. Like, we have to continue to be open. And I know there are moments in seasons and highs and lows in marriage, but that's when you I guess feel like you're in a low season. That's that time, especially. I mean, well, all times, but especially in those moments where you do feel weak. What does the Word of God say? In our weakness, you know, He is strong, and God is our strength. And so it's really a matter of saying, okay, God, I'm not really feeling it. You might be upset with Him or mad about Him, but we must understand that we do have power within us. It's Holy Spirit power, you know, equipping us to be able to love our spouse. And so we should never withhold that love from them. And so that's the Selah moment, you know, just making sure that we're remaining open, our hearts remaining pure in our marriage, that way we can love with the agape love of God.
That came to my head too.
Amen.
Yes. Like, who are we to withhold?
Like
Yes.
that. Thank you. Well, ladies, that is all we have for today's episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any more questions about marriage, you got some marriage tips that you want to give us, please drop them in the comments. We want to hear from you. So, ladies, look, if you are looking for us, you can find us on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on YouTube. Be sure to hit that bell so you get a notification whenever we post something. Like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
Now, one more thing. If you are in the Charlotte area, please stop by the church. We would like to see you. Now, if you're not in Charlotte, completely fine. Go to our Facebook page. We stream live every Sunday. So we want to see you there. Ladies, I hope you have a great day. And until the next time I see you,
See you later.
have a good day.
Bye.